I grew up like most of you around here. I grew up here in Omega, or surrounding area of Omega, W.B. Parks Road. Back then, it was Route 1, Box 239. Had, or still have, two of the best parents you could ask for, you know, raised in a Christian atmosphere, I would call it. But, I can't remember the exact age it was. I should be ashamed, but it was somewhere around 12 years old. I received Jesus Christ as my Savior. And it wasn't just going through the motions. It was real. You know, the tears came down. You know the feeling when you're overcome with the Spirit. And that's the way it was. It was a feeling that it's like no other. And it was good. And shortly after that, I began to bear off. Kept going to church, probably up until maybe 17, 18 years old. But I started turning to the world instead of putting my trust in the Lord, you know, and talking to God about what I should be doing instead of trying to figure it out for myself and looking at other people and trying to find these answers. It's the best way I can describe this. Y'all bear with me. I'm not the greatest speaker in the world. It's a long story, so I'm going to have to kind of fast forward through here. Along just around 1987, just say mid to late 80s, I was living in a house that belonged to Tommy Hornbuckle. Attempting to rent it, I barely could pay the rent. So I got tired of struggling. And once again, I didn't stop and take the time to ask God what to do or give me guidance. Try to figure it out for myself, you know. And the devil, he's always right there with the easy choices, with a big bag full of answers for you. It's easy to get into. And with God, it's so simple. And I see that now, just asking for things, or praying for things, how easily it comes sometimes, that it's almost mind-boggling to look back at the choices that I made. So I made the choice at that time to get into the drug business. Started out with the marijuana business. And, you know, just like now, it's a plague in this country. And that's because of people like me and the choices I made. It's like throwing trash by the road. You know, you don't think throwing a bottle of trash, maybe that's not a big deal to some people, you know, but if every single person in the world did it, we'd be driving in mounds of trash. And that sums up the drug business. You know, there's nothing good about it. And I made that choice, and that lasted, I don't know, that particular run may have lasted not even a year. And Mr. Tommy Hornbuckle, he remembers it well, I'm sure, because it ended one night about 3 o'clock in the morning with every law enforcement agency in 2 counties in his yard over there would be in handcuffs outside the house. I remember him, his wife, their daughter. Everybody was in the yard. And there I was getting hauled off for my crime. And that punishment, I managed to wiggle out of that because of the prisons being overcrowded. And I thought this is a great thing. I'm not going to go to prison. It's going to be probation. I'm going to move on with my life. Well, you know, just like little kids, when they get away with things, you know, they know what they can get away with after a while, you know. You teach people how to treat you. So, you know, I guess I just took it for granted, and I veered. I stayed straight for a while and stayed into the what I would call the mainstream of life. Going to work every day, doing what you're supposed to do. But I wasn't in church. I wasn't talking to God about what I needed to be doing or looking for answers in Him. So maybe I stayed out of that business probably maybe 3 years, and I drifted back into it again. This time it was a little more serious, a little more involved. It became so involved that my job as a machinist, it didn't matter anymore. Excuse me. It didn't matter anymore because it was slowing me down. I had an agenda, and my agenda was to make money at whatever expense. And I'm telling myself the whole time, I use the word modification, downplaying the severity of what I was doing. I'm not a bad person. That's what I'm telling myself. This isn't right, but it isn't the wrong. It isn't the worst thing. There's plenty of crooked police, crooked government officials. I could never keep up with them with the drugs that they're bringing into this country. I'm justifying, just making excuses. And no matter what someone's doing, no matter how many people are involved in something, if it's wrong, it's wrong. But I continue to make those excuses. And it rolled on into the mid-'90s, right on up to 1997, and I pushed it to the limit. I started going to other countries, deeper and deeper into the drug business. And the fall of 1997, next thing you know, I heard Gringo, "Don't move." You could guess where I was at. So looking down the barrels of about 15 machine guns, I didn't move. And they loaded me up and took me to Cerezo No. 2 in Matamoros, Mexico, or Santa Adelaida, Mexico, where I spent from 97 till the end of 2000. And it was behind a 40-foot wall with gun towers, pretty much in there with just a lot of people in there for multi-homicide. Was mostly the area that I was housed in. A lot of drug traffickers. So you would think, you're in that situation, you're going to turn to God, you're going to forget all this foolishness, Then the devil kicked back in, and his voice was pretty loud, and I didn't see it at the time as being the devil. And I said, wait a minute. I've invested all these years in this. Am I going to let this break me now? God's over here. I've got all the answers with Him. I even have the Bible with me. I was even, twisted enough in my thinking to actually pray for success in some of the things I was doing. That's how far off I was in that. And I listened to the devil. And I said, I can't waste all this time I've invested into this. So, in there I met people, because the whole place is full of drug traffickers. I met people in there that did what I did, except they were on the other end of it. So I turned back on God again, and I got back involved in it. And from that prison cell, I crunk up operations, and I had my little army of soldiers running back and forth over here to complete my agenda of selfishness and greed. That while I was there, a young lady. And we had a son. But she was also in the drug trade, her family. And through all of that, the time rolled by. Instead of stopping the foolishness, I kept on and on and on, no matter what happened, no matter who got arrested, no matter who got killed. I kept on and on because I was hard-headed. I had it in my mind, you know, there's a rainbow, there's a pot of gold at the end of this rainbow, if you will. I was living in a dream world, a short-lived dream. I say short-lived, it consumed a good part of my adult life. So I kept on with that with a lot of perseverance. If I had just put that into talking to God and doing God's work, I would have came a lot further in life. I hope somehow some of you can receive a message from this. I don't know. But I know what not to do. I don't always know what to do, but I definitely know what not to do now. So I kept on with that until I managed to get a conspiracy charge in the United States. And I was sentenced to more time, 7 years in the federal system in the United States for importation of drugs into the United States from Costa Rica and Mexico. And you know, I began to wonder when I got in there, actually halfway through my sentence, or I would say 70% of the way through my sentence, I was going to do the same thing again. I was bent on it. You know, the definition of insanity is thinking you can do the same thing over and over again and come out with a different result. I think that's how it goes. I'm a little bit tongue-tied. But they had a program in there. It was the drug program, the RDAP. It's 500 hours. And I'm thinking, I don't need that. That's for drug addicts. That's for weak people. That's for people that can't control themselves. But I was looking at, you know what, that's going to cut some time off my sentence right there. I can get back home. You know, I took the program. And when I got in there, you know, listening to what everybody was saying, you know, in a room full of people that I pretty much despised because of the way I thought about how things were supposed to be. Most of these people, when they got caught, they told on everybody that they knew. And I didn't do that. And I thought that was something to be proud of, you know. It's nothing to be proud of, keeping things going like that are wrong in the drug business or whatever. Those people don't need protection. They need to be stopped. But that program, I don't know, something clicked. And I thank God for it because, you know, once I got into it, it wasn't, you know, you think drug program, well, this is a program about being on drugs and not, you know, not doing drugs or not drinking or whatever. But it wasn't about that at all. It was about choices. You know, it was about rational thinking. It sounded ridiculous, you know, when you first get in there, you know, listen to stuff they're saying. But, you know, when the lady asked me, she said, you know, she had me up there in front of the class talking, and she said, John, are you willing to use your freedom, your life, as a gambling chip or dice and roll the dice again, another run? And that's something, you know, that hit home with me right there. I don't ever want to do that again. I don't want to put my family through that, and I definitely don't want to waste my life away doing that. And I just, I thank God for it, because, man, it's hard to believe that I'm not doing that now, because that was my life, 24/7, drug smuggling. And, looking back on it, how many of you in this room knew that about me? I'm just curious. All right, put your hands down. It's something I'm ashamed of, but, I can't change it in the past, but I can, I can do different in the future. And it's hard to believe it, but I have changed. I told them people in that program, they got that, what do you call it, recidivism, 85% or something like that, maybe 90. I said, well, you can count me out. I'm going to be one of the ones that change these statistics, if you will. I'm not going to be part of that return rate. I'm going to mess up your return rate. And I'm going to try to talk everybody that might be thinking of that out of it, to increase that, to lower that recidivism rate. Because so many people do return to that, and the TV, they, what's the word, downplay, they glorify it. They glorify that kind of world, these music videos, that the kids listen to, a lot of these things, they glorify that life. The cars with the flashy wheels and all that. I didn't live that life myself, but that's what you think when you say drug dealer or something on TV. You see these people with gold everywhere and they're flash and all. And I was Mr. Undercover, but look how good that worked out for me. But I do believe everybody's capable of changing with God's help. It sure has helped me. It's a struggle, but it feels good to know that if the law kicks my door down, somebody's going to probably have to pay for it. It's not going to be me. It really feels good. I don't think I'm going to get arrested for running a lathe. I guess it depends on what you're making on that lathe, I guess. But it feels good to be here. I can't say it enough. I appreciate all of you. And sound like a broken record. It's great to be here. It's good to be free. But you can be locked up and be in the free world. You don't have to be in prison to be locked up if you're not with God. I try to talk everybody I can into coming to church. But I got a confession to make. I wasn't trying to talk anybody to come to the prayer breakfast this morning. I said, I got a feeling Uncle Larry's liable to try to just stop by the road putting flyers up and stuff. I come around that curve real slowly right there, ready to hit the gas at any minute, if I seen about 600 cars out here in the parking lot. But I'm glad we did this. I hope y'all can get a message from that. I thought about it a lot, I didn't know how much good could come out of this for y'all's sake, because you all are good Christian people. I've never heard anything bad about anyone in this room, but maybe something can come of this. I know it has for me, because it's you live with these things that you've done, and you wonder, is this person I'm talking to, does he know this about me? Am I coming off like a hypocrite? But when it's over, it's over. My Aunt Vicky said when I was in prison, she told somebody, she said, money's not everything. I thought, what? hard-headed. But
I never knew you said.
but I'm gonna. If y'all got a minute, I'll tell you a quick story about one of the things that happened. That convinced me that God had a plan for me. If it isn't anything else other than bringing people to church, bringing people to Him. I was going to Guatemala City, and we spent the night in a little town called Hidalgo, Mexico, right across the border. And I had a New Mexican car, and I had the paper plate still on it. I couldn't cross that car into Guatemala. So I had to leave the car at the motel, and I had got a bus ticket the day before. The bus was supposed to leave at 7:30 in the morning. Well, stayed up a little too late and woke up at 7:30. I thought, man, I missed my bus. So I crossed over the border, whole different world. In Guatemala, here comes a rickshaw guy with a cart. He's walking with his cart. And the partner tells me, get on. I'm like, what? He's going to walk us down, pull us in a wagon? There we go. We go down through the center of the town there, and I flag a taxi guy down. He's got a little Nissan Sentra. And I asked him, I said, what would you charge me to take us to Guatemala City? I said, and spend the night. I'll pay you all your expenses and everything, motel room and all, and give you some spending money, whatever you need. And we want you to stay there because we want to have a sure way back. $150. I thought, wow, $150. That wasn't much money, for a trip down there, 2.5 hours, stay the night, and bring you back the next day, compared to the United States. So there we go. We head out. We head out, we get on this little 2-lane road. There's coffee trees on each side of the road. We've been on the road about maybe 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes. Traffic stops. 10 minutes goes by, 15 minutes goes by, 20 minutes goes by. It's starting to remind me of Atlanta rush hour, I'm thinking. Man, what is taking so long? There's some mules crossing the road down here somewhere or something. We wait and we wait and we wait, and an hour goes by. I'm ready to walk. If it wasn't the fact that I knew what can happen to you down there. So, hour and a half goes by. Believe it or not, 2 hours went by. We're sitting there in that car. Traffic backed up. Finally, traffic starts moving after about 2.5 hours. I'm waiting on somebody to come out of the bushes with a machine gun any minute, sitting there waiting, So here we go. We start going down the road. About 5 minutes into the journey down the highway, traffic started slowing down a little bit, and I seen why we were stopped for so long. I had bought my ticket for that bus. The seat that I had got was the first seat on the bus, the right side of the bus. We came up on that bus. It was on fire. It had been hit by a semi hauling 2 trailers behind it that passed over a hill. The bus was coming over the hill, and the semi was going up the hill and went around another car. Hit the bus head on and killed everybody on the first 12 rows of that bus. That was my ticket to die right there. Everybody was dead. The person who was in that seat, they were burned up, dead. I was traveling under a different name. My family would have never knew. Friends, whoever, they would have never knew what happened to me. I would have just disappeared. So, to me, that's a miracle right there. God just saying, "Come here, you ignorant sinner. Just, let me protect you." Or foolish, whatever the word you want. I guess ignorance is not the word for it, because I knew better. Foolish would be the word for it. But spared me. And because he had another plan for me. And he pulled me out of that Mexican prison. And that was a blessing, because a lot of people come out of there in a body bag. It was a whole different world in there. It was ran by the drug cartel, and they was the boss, you know. It's just I thank God, you know, for bringing me through that, and I hope I can help some people now, you know, to try to steer them in the right direction. To not to take the road that I took, because it's not as pretty, it's not as glorious as what people think. It doesn't matter how much money you make. If you're off on the wrong foot, it's going to be all taken away from you. And, you know, you're lucky to come out of it alive. You don't see too many retired drug dealers sitting around reading the newspaper on front porches. Most of them in the graveyard or either in prison for life, which was what I was facing, 10 to life, when the United States charged me over here. That was another miracle, because Lord knows some of those poor guys in there, when they told me their stories, what they were doing was like this compared to what I was doing. Was this whole, it'd be like comparing an inch to a million miles, and they had more time than me. So that in itself was a big blessing. God spared me, you know, and it's just because He had another plan for me. That's the only way I can explain it, and I give God the glory for it, because without Him I would have never made it, you know. And believe me, when I was in there, when I prayed, I wasn't praying to get me through this so I can get back out and start my business back up again. It was, God, please help me get through this and get back out and get on the right foot, you know, do what I'm supposed to do. It's not easy, everybody knows, to make it, especially this day and time with the economy the way it is, but I'd rather just be digging ditches or whatever I had to do, or shoveling garbage or whatever, the worst job you can imagine. I would rather be doing that than to be involved in something that tears down society. And it's just, that's the best way I can describe it. You know, I think I said that when I was down there in Mexico in prison, that I got married, had a son, Oscar Manuel. He's 14 years old. But and I said, you know, his mom was in that drug business. But she, in 2007, she got her brains blown out. She got shot right between the eyes. Over $160,000, you know. So there's no good ending to that world. Put your faith in God. But, like I said, no matter how good it gets, it can just all be taken away in the blinking of an eye. I'm not trying to preach to y'all. I'm trying to explain something. Explain my life. And try to give some examples of how severe it can get. It's a lot of people that get tangled up in this stuff. All they think about is what, you know, going to prison or whatever, or you know, having things taken from them, material things. They don't think about the severity of it. You know, people get murdered, kidnapped, and it's an ugly business. And I hope that every chance I get, I can stop some person from entering into that life of crime like that, to help them to make the right choices and to put their faith in God instead of one-tracking like I did. I had a bad case of one-tracking, and I just kept at it over and over again, and I thought that I would get it right, you know. But there's no getting that world right there, that business. It's a dead-end street. But I'm starting to repeat myself now over and over again, too, so I thank y'all for...
Why you still up there? I'd like to mention nothing you saw that did let you know that there was some thoughts of God in that area down there. There were several houses, and
yeah, when I was on that journey down through there, actually the last time when the DEA had a warrant for me and the United States Marshals was hunting me. I don't know how I managed to slip away from them, but they goofed. They went into the house when I wasn't there. I managed to get down to Mexico. And through that traveling around, hiding out, if you will, in South Mexico where you had a lot of ranches and big farms, I seen people they lived in houses that was, they were made literally from tree limbs, nicely cut, and woven together with dirt floors. But even though it was a dirt floor, I guess it was just packed down so tight, they actually swept it and kept the house in order. The beds were made out of twines and sticks and everything. But there was that Bible sitting right there. And people come over on Sunday, they come riding up on horses. The whole family. Get off and tie their horse on that pole on the front porch. Reminded me of something off of Bonanza or something, or the High Chaparral or something, Simple living. They'd get out and they would go in there and they would go into a room in the house and they would all have prayer and get together and talk about God. And I thought to myself, boy, you got to get yourself together and get back to the basics of life of what's really important. Because those people, they wasn't caught up in the fast-paced life, that a lot of people over here in the United States, they were focusing on the most important things in life. The family, God. And I was impressed by that, how happy they were with so little, Next subject. But that pretty much winds it up for me. I appreciate y'all listening to me.
Mike, we hear a lot about Mexico and the border and so forth, the killing. How bad is it? Is it as bad as we hear on the news, or is it worse?
It's bad. It's really bad. Like I said, my wife, she was in that business, and she had let some people have some things, and might as well say she had let some people have some kilos of cocaine, and I believe it was about 16 kilos. And she went to get the money. They called her, and they paid her with a 9mm right between the eyes. Stripped her down, left her laying right there like a piece of garbage, in the floor. and killed the girl that rode with her. When I was in that Mexican prison, and I was up to these things, sending things over here, there was a fellow there that approached me to help him move some of his stuff. So I agreed to it for a while. I guess probably a year went by. Well, my people were getting caught. I was running out of options. You know, it was like grasping for straws. So I turned to him to use his transportation. And this is the part here that makes me feel responsible for my wife's death. I looked at him at his transportation and I said, you know, I approached him about it. He said, yeah, we can do that. He said, but don't call your people on the phone. You know, they had all these pirate phones down there that you could use or buy or whatever inside that place. The inmates were in charge of the prison. And he said, have your people come up here and give them this address, and that'll be where they drop it off at, so we can take it for you. I'd been knowing him for years in there, a few years. I didn't think anything about it. He provided me with my telephone. We had built up a little bit of trust. I was doing things for him. I did him favors out here. And I believed him. He said, have your family come down here, and we'll give them the address. So when they did, they came down, and so did these people. Their people on the outside, and they followed her home. That's all it was about. It wasn't about getting an address. It was about getting her address. So they ran in. They followed her back home. They ran in on them. They beat everybody, assaulted, whatever you can imagine happened that day. Her mother, grandmother, kids, you name it. Completely robbed the whole house. But greed gets a lot of people. The guy that was supposed to do that, he was supposed to kill him that day. That was what his orders were, was to kill everybody in the house and take everything. Well, you know, when people are being tortured, they start making deals. Because pain moves you, you know. And, you know, after going through what they went through, they told him, they said, hey, Michael's got this house over here full of all this stuff. So these guys said, hey, and wheels started turning, greed, you know. They said, hey, let's just go to work with these ladies right here. We can get this money that Michael's been getting. But they forgot one thing. The boss said go over there and kill him. So wasn't long after that, the fellow that made that choice of let's just take all Michael's stuff and let's go to work with these ladies right here. Let's enjoy some of this money that's going on right here. We know how to do this. He got shot 35 times in the chest with an AK-47 walking out of the house, and shortly after the decision he made, it looked like he got attacked by a shark. They shot him so many times. Yeah, killing is very real down there. They took my brother-in-law's father. They live in Guerrero, Mexico, down between Acapulco and Mexico City, a little town called Talachapa. My brother-in-law, they had a farm there outside of Talachapa. They raised saltwater fish, all kind of different stuff. My brother-in-law, he went to college for agriculture, I guess you'd call it, and tried to make something of himself. He was never involved in any kind of drug business or anything. He was one that he was the youngest, and they kept me shielded from all that, and that's a good thing. But when he got married, his father-in-law had a lot of cows. He was a cattle farmer and a lot of livestock. Well, I guess it's been about 4 years ago. Time has flown since I come home. It's actually been 5 years ago. They come seeing his father-in-law. They said local gangs, you know, young little street gang people, whatever you want to call them. They told him, they said, we see you got a lot of cows, a lot of livestock out there. We want it. We want our slice of this. You know. Yeah, Mr. Larry, what would y'all do? Some young guys rolled up there and said, hey, look, even though y'all got a lot of peanuts and cotton and all out there, I'm going to need about a 30% slice of it. Eddie, what would you tell him? You better gift yourself out.
Go ahead and take it all.
Well, you know, this guy, he wasn't up for it either, looking at some young punk telling him that, hey, you're going to give me part of what you're earning right there. So he said, no, get lost. So they took him out in the backyard and shot him in the back of the head. You know, threw him on the ground like a dog, you know. Yeah, killing is, it's a harsh reality down there. They, not too long ago, a couple of years back, they made an example out of the guy in Talachapo. They chopped him up in about 30 pieces and just spread him around town like fish food, you know, dragging him and slicing him, throwing him out, standing in the back of the truck, butchering him and throwing pieces of him out. Yeah, it's rough. You know, I come out of some, God, I swear to God, pulled a foolish man out from that. You know, when he pulled me out of that, I don't know how I made it out of there alive. I made it out of there in the nick of time. That's what I did. I come to my senses when I did, because I mean, I got kidnapped before, you know, in that business, grabbed up, you know, stripped, you know, had a blue jean jacket wrapped around my head, tied up, you know, with a machine gun in the back of my head and a 9mm right here on my forehead, being questioned, you know, what are you doing down here? That's after going to the prison in Mexico down. You talk about somebody hard-headed. You look in the dictionary, you'll see a picture of Michael under there. I'm hard-headed. I'm telling you, that's past the. Of course, I might be hard-headed still about some things, but about breaking the law, I get the picture loud and clear. There's no distortion in that now. I get it. You know, I should at nearly 50 years old, 49 this year. I should get the message. You know, I've been out 5 years now.
Michael, do you find yourself still kind of looking up across your shoulder? Tell about the first time I called you on the phone.
I will. Looking over my shoulder, I really don't do it too much, because like I said, there's people out there that are looking over their shoulder. They hear limbs break in the backyard and they're scared to death. It's me. But I'm not that guy. I'm not him. I'm not that guy that's going to come get somebody. You know, I had 16 people testify against me. You know, you're only strong as your weakest link. But guess what? Stay out of that mess and you don't have to worry about it, you know. So any of you people that's involved in this stuff, stop doing it. The pastor called me up here a while back. Looked at my phone, it said 956 and then his number. Set that phone down. I was out there running late. I set that phone down. I said, God, please, make these people leave me alone. I am not going back in this business. Because trust me, they may have stopped. Daddy still gets those weird numbers on his phone out there. And sometimes people can't speak English and they're trying to spit my name out. It's over, buddy. It is over with.
956 South.
Right, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm severely ADHD. But, you know, I take medicine for that, but I don't know. I don't think it scratches the surface, really. But,
lighter note between you and me. Sir, what are your opinions on the adequacy of the Texas prison system?
Whew. Man, plenty of them. I was in Harlingen, Texas in 1995, and I was in the Walmart, and the only thing in my buggy was plastic wrap, axle grease, Ziploc bags, vacuum sealing supplies, because I was a pro. I thought I was a pro at it. You know, I mean, I could drive up to those drug dogs, loaded down, and they just look at me. Have a good day, sir. I mean, I knew how to do it. But you know, it don't matter if it don't have a smell. If they come through the side of your car with big saws and stuff flies everywhere. But anyways, I'm coming out of the store. There we go with the ADHD again. I'm coming out of the store, loaded down with all these wrapping supplies for drugs. Wrap it up. Let's keep it safe. As soon as I walk out the front door of Walmart, the news camera crew runs up in my face. Good evening, sir. Could you tell us about the Texas prison system? How do you feel about it? Do you feel that there's enough prisons in the state of Texas? News crew. Here I am up to no good. And I'm thinking, oh, Lord, I'm going to have Mom and Dad don't live right here. See me on the news. I feel the grocery buggy full of plastic wrap. But, yeah, I told him, I was about to keep him stuttering. I said, oh, yes, I feel there's sufficient. There's sufficient. I mean, it really blew my mind. I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, you never know who's looking. You never know how you look till you get your picture took. Is that the old saying? But yeah, I'll be glad when the pastor changes that 956 number. Quit scaring me like that. I was afraid of that. Hey, Lord. But it's only getting worse with the killing. And you know, we have the programs over here for the drug users and all, and they got away from punishing drug users. And that's a real tough subject to me right there to try to figure out and say what's right and what's not. I mean, people that get on drugs, especially something strong like heroin, that becomes a physical addiction, your body dictates whether or not you don't have it. You run out of choices on whether or not you got to have it or not. You'll take a brick and hit somebody in the head with it to get it because of the pain that it puts you into. It's just like pain medication. If you take pain medication for a long time, then they take it away from you. What happens? You feel like you got the flu. You're addicted to it. Your body becomes addicted to it. But punishing the user, this person's sick. You look at it like that point of view. How can we punish him? He's just sick. That's an illness. The user is what fuels the business. Without the user, there is no business. So that's a hard call right there on what you do with the user. It's between a rock and a hard place. If you lock up all the users, I mean, look what the prison system. I mean, you've got to have to make half of each state a prison. Because it's getting worse and worse, and especially now with these people making the stuff. Bizarre. These people that keep finding them in these houses, and they're making this methamphetamine. People, with feces on them, and filth. I seen a case the other day where there was a family, they had been keeping a 2-year-old in the closet. I mean, it'd be hard, God forgive me, but it's a good thing I'm not a policeman, because I would probably be coming in there with a baseball bat after I seen that. It's hard. That's hard. You hear about stuff like that, but it's all because of the addiction, They get on that stuff and they lose touch with everything, And that was one of the big deterrents for me. A big turning point for me was, more than anything, was the damage that it does to society, to the people. You see the people, what they look like, where it takes them in life. And, I've seen people, yeah, that's bad. It's a hard call. The people's got the law enforcement has got their jobs cut out for them. It's how can you quit fighting it But the war on drugs is most definitely is a failure. But then what do you do? Do you give up? You can't give up. You know, it's a tough call. It's tough for law enforcement. My hat goes off to them because their job is endless. And a lot of people out there, they've never did anything other than deal drugs, and it's a cycle, and it's hopeless. You know, I look back into the computer just out of curiosity, and I'll punch in people's names that I was incarcerated with just to see, has it happened to them yet? And it's pitiful. I mean, a lot of them have went back, you know. It's because that's all they knew, you know. They didn't have a trade to fall back on or any type of education. Or the big thing, too, is they didn't have the family that they could count on, or family that they could look at as role models. You know, I was really extremely fortunate to have the family that I have, to have the parents that I have. I've got a family structure that you know, that a lot of people just they just dream about that. You know, they've never known it. You know, and how do you win if you go to prison for that type of drug dealing or whatever it is, and you get out and your dad's a drug dealer, you know, your brothers are drug dealers or whatever, you know. You imagine the uphill battle, you know. Just stay straight. If everybody around you is in it, and just the talk of doing right and being on the right path is just plumb ridiculous for them to hear, you know. It's a battle for those guys. It's a mess. Any more questions? I like that where somebody asks me a question. It keeps me from having to figure something out. Appreciate y'all coming to listen to me.
I think you did a good job, don't y'all?